Hey, welcome to our episode of Chan's Beer Reviews. Now, you knew I was going to have to do another Southern Tier beer before I wrapped up the show, right? I think this is pretty much the only Southern Tier beer I haven't reviewed yet. Well, I haven't reviewed the Back Burner Barley Wine, but I think that's pretty much it, aside from the beers that they've retired. But anyways, this is the oak-aged version of their Unearthly Imperial IPA. This bottle was bottled on February 24th, so it's kind of old, but, it's a pretty big beer at 9.5 ABV. And you can see the ingredients on there and the very long description. Kind of like Stone, but not as up their own ass. But anyways, get in the bottle, or in the glass here. And it's a nice kind of reddish, cherry, dark orange, chestnutty kind of color. Opaque, I guess, because a lot of that's condensation in the glass, but yeah, it's pretty darn cloudy. Nice kind of yellowish, frothy, soapy head on it. I can smell it as soon as I pop the cap, and yeah, it's that super thick, viscous, super sweet type of IPA where it just smells like candy syrup, like juice concentrate syrup. Um, like butterscotch and toffee and like a citrusy, like really dank kind of syrupy kind of sweetness. An overall kind of vanilla kind of smell, which I guess would be from the oak age. I mean, it doesn't smell. Usually I associate oak age with imperial stouts. You don't really tend to see too many IPAs and beers of this nature, except for maybe like barley wines aged in oak. But this should be really interesting. So here we go. Last Southern Tier beer review. Cheers. Wow. Even though the bottle's 5, almost 6 months old, um, it's still plenty bitter. It's walking that fine line between really ridiculously bitter and really ridiculously sweet. I mean, you could easily call this a barley wine. But I think it's a little too overtly hoppy for a barley wine. Um, but just like I said with the nose, that super sweet, syrupy, toffee kind of butterscotch taste, kind of a general vanilla taste to it. At the same time, like that, like citrus, just like citrus concentrate, and that the whole thing is just like a thud of bitterness. It's not like a crisp, light bitterness like a Stone IPA or Dogfish 6-Minute or something like that. This is more like those extreme, like Founder's Devil Dancer and things like that. Really no alcohol presence. I mean, it's 9.5, so it's not huge, but it's pretty darn big. And you know what? It didn't gain any alcohol in the oak barrel because I was at the store and I had the regular and the oak right next to each other and they had the exact same ABV. Unless they change it from year to year, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's surprisingly very smooth, very drinkable. I'm not going to go as far as say it's refreshing, even on a hot night like this, but, you know, very smooth, very comfortable mouthfeel. Um, Not highly carbonated at all, but far from tepid. It doesn't really feel as thick and sticky and chewy as you would expect for a beer of this type. You get a little bit of like that lollipop kind of taste, which I don't usually tend to like. Usually a lot of like older hobby beers tend to have that, or and a lot of amber ales and things. So far, this is a really good beer. Still got plenty of the bottle, still got plenty of time to kill, so I'm going to take a break and I'll come back with my final thoughts on the oak-aged Unearthly. Cheers. I actually had this on tap at the Beer Abbey last week or 2 weeks ago, and it was like way more rustic, way more earthy on tap. Like it had like that like kind of tree bark kind of thing to it going. This is like a 5, 6 month old bottle, so it's a slightly different palate. This has like a slight kind of astringency in it. I don't know if like it might be oxidization or what. I mean, there's a little bit of like a buttery taste, but at the same time, you're getting so much confectionery sweetness like toffee, caramel, butterscotch, that it's like really not a big deal. You're getting this kind of vanilla thing from the oak aged. I mean, yeah, it's the first few sips there, it is a really intense bitterness right up front, but it's like this like dank bitterness, and you have that toffee, just like those confectionery sweetness, riding shotgun, neck and neck, totally even with the bitterness the entire time. So you don't really notice the bitterness that much. Like it has like the flavor of like a Founder's Devil's Dancer. I think I mentioned that before, or Dogfish 120, but without that just intense, cognac-like taste or feel to it. I really had no problem at all killing this entire bottle by myself. I mean, this is like I went into this beer thinking, oh man, I should have split this with somebody, but you know what? It's actually a pretty nice kind of dessert beer. Really interesting beer. But again, it's not a mind blower. It's it's an 8. I'm gonna stand by the 8. It's a very good beer. It's just like it's not blowing my mind. It's not really doing anything. I haven't experienced a lot of other beers, and that slight kind of lollipop, slight kind of buttery presence in there. And it's that slight kind of solvent aroma to it is kind of throwing me off. Could be because it's old. We'll chalk it up to that. But that being said, and plus, like I said, I just had it on tap like a week or two ago, and that didn't absolutely blow my mind either. I really liked it, but it wasn't a mind blower. So, yeah, I'm rambling again. 8 out of 10 for Southern Tier Oak Aged Unearthly. Last chance to give a shout out to Paul and Doug and all the guys at Southern Tier who watch my videos. Thanks, guys, for supporting me. I'll see you at Tap New York every year like I always do. Oh, I gotta give a shout out to Winton, aka 𝐵𝑒𝑟𝑖𝐶𝑖 Tuba. I actually sent him the oak aged version of this back in 2010 when we did a beer trade, and he asked for the regular. I didn't even notice that there was an oak age, and I sent him this. So sorry, 2 years later, 2.5 years later, really. But this is still a really good beer. It's not quite as good as Pliny, but it's a good beer. So if you can find this, I'd still recommend it. So thanks for watching this episode of Chad's Beer Reviews. Only 2 more to go, and I will see you next time.